Hey guys, happy 4th. Haven't been doing a lot of videos lately. I did one on the S&P 500 a few weeks ago. We broke an intermediate term trend or a shorter term trend, bullish trend, and kind of went neutral. And the intermediate trend is still bullish and intact in my opinion. But a lot of people have been asking me about Bitcoin. I get some emails and texts, and I haven't really been a owner of any Bitcoin. I felt it was a bubble when it was making this giant move here, and obviously that the bubble burst. Um, but we're at some interesting points here, technically on a Fibonacci perspective. So if you're a Bitcoin bull, and I'm kind of neutral here on it, but I might actually take a stab at it now that it's kind of done a complete unwind here. I'll show you what I look at on my own technical analysis and why I think we're at an important point right here, and you can kind of make your judgments from there on what to do. And I'll kind of outline some different important pivot points that I look at and why they line up nicely with some Fibonacci numbers as well on traditional technical analysis to show you that this could be a first entry if you're looking to invest in Bitcoin. I'm not real bullish on it, but just from a trader standpoint, it looks interesting right in here, and I'll show you why. So psychologically, when you look at Bitcoin, there's no way to even get any technical analysis on where to trade a sell point here with this big blow off move because there's no historical numbers to base it upon. To me, the more interesting numbers are after you have these type of moves and you pull back. Where do the sellers come in at? And the sellers you can see come in kind of around the 2720 area. So to me, that's a significant number. So we'll mark that, and we can run a line there along the 2720. We want to look at the areas psychologically where we had directional change. Remember, this is a weekly chart, so closes are important as much as anything else because that's where people are willing to hold it until the next day. Opens not so much. A lot of stuff can be manipulated, but let's look at some endpoints here and I'll show you how they line up on the Fibonacci. So I drew some lines here, just directional changes in my opinion on the weekly. Little pivot areas where we tended to break trend. And then bounce back up and then hit numbers and then fail again. You can see the failure here, the failure here. These are a little trend lines here and channels and stuff. Just ignore those for now. But so our important price points are the 2720 area here, just under that, and this little area here around 2020 or 2030, and then the bottom of this candle right here. I'll show you a MACD too, and I'll show you something interesting that lines up as well. So just to start out, if you run your Fibonacci retracement here at the 2720 and pull it down, my number's a little skewed on the top end there, but you can see I'm lined up right at about the 2720 here. And you pull that down, I'm at 2721, but like I said, let's not split hairs. And you catch the close in the bottom candle that we saw on the prior week here. Your stretch point on the top end is around 3878, 3880. This is your 100 and this is your 161.80. On the top end. Interestingly enough, without any historical reference, but on the top end here at that time, we now have some historical reference. So the price pivot point here where the sellers came in after the big move, interestingly enough, lines up almost to the penny with the price point top at the 161.80 Fibonacci number right around 3870. And then you have some interesting points here that line up as well on our pivots that we talk about. You can see the bounce point here, right around 2020. Here you have 2017. Like I said, let's not split hairs here. And then you have a couple more interesting numbers in here. This little pivot area right in here, the little top candle right in here on the 23.6, and then your bottom area here, which is our zero starting point. You can run your fib the other way. You're still going to get some correlated price points. So interesting numbers in here. This is significant here in my opinion, and I'll show you on a 1-year daily why we're at a very interesting cross point here with Bitcoin. Just looking again at your Fibonacci numbers, you can kind of see how they line up. Interesting that the top point here, like I said, lines up spot on. Alright, so anybody that follows me knows I do a little bit of different technical analysis, but once again, here's your important lines. Here's a 1-year daily. Big move up. Where do the buyers come in at? Right here. So that's significant in my opinion. That's where we're going to start our lines. And once again, these aren't necessarily going to be perfect. Now we want to catch all the lines, so it's important that we go through common areas. We have to catch this bottom candle here because that's a significant point where we held before this giant move up here. So that's significant. We want to cross those over. So that's an important pivot point right there. We're going to cross through there and then come across here, and then now you can kind of see the significance of what we're looking at. And we're probably just about like that. Once again, my line isn't perfect. And I'll show you why this is important. Well, you're going to say, well, you know, Henry, you didn't catch those areas over here. We always talk about 3 days, fourth day over. So you have a close below on the first day, second day, third day. And time is an important factor on dailies. So you get back over that line. You can see how you start to push back higher, make another run. That's a significant move there on that leg. You bounce right on that line, you get back under again, and then you fail, and you can't get that day over, that fourth day over. So it's a significant point here. You start to fall back. If you drew a line across there, you could use the same rule here. 1 day over, 2 days over, then you fail on the third day, then you get back over 1 day, 2 days, and then you fail, and that becomes another downward leg there. So it's important to look at that as well. So if we zoom in on the dailies here, this is my little price pivot. You know, we open up under it, we fall back down, we go back over it. So let's use that as a crucial pivot point there too as well, right around, like I said, 1520. Once again, this doesn't have to be perfect. And we'll draw that line across. So now we've made our triangles on where we need to get above for directional changes on bullish to bearish or bearish to bullish. And you can see the battle line here. You know, the open right on that line, the close just below it, another open below it, only 2 days above it, barely 3 if you count that candle. So this was definitely a battle lines here, and you can tell the line's spot on to the penny on the last candle before the next downdraft. So these are important areas. You draw a line from that top pivot point here, and this is how you're going to finish up your chart to kind of get an idea of where we need to go to break trend here. So you can see how the area we're in right now is really crucial. Everything lines up in this area here. Here's your other pivot. It's almost parallel. It's almost horizontal. And then you can kind of see how we bounced. Sellers came in before the top trend line. Another broken line. And we broke right in here. And once again, that becomes resistance. So we're creating a little bit of a triangle here. The interesting thing I see here is this move was a sharp move reversal back up to the trend line. It took less days than we've seen in these other broken trend moves. So it's definitely sharp there. You can look at it on the MACD and the volume as well. So we really need to see us get above this descending trend line, and you could see the beginning of a directional change in Bitcoin. I would say it's around the 1040, 1045 area, but it changes daily. So just to finish up, here's a zoomed in view of it with your MACD. You have a crossover here on the bearish side. We haven't been able to get any move above it. You try to get a move here and you fail right on the downward trend line. And we're trying again here. You're trying to get a crossover here. We can look at some other technicals too on the EMA and SMA to kind of give us a better idea. But you can see how we've come right back up to that line now. And it's going to be a crucial week next week for Bitcoin. Real quick close-up view, just a cleaner chart, simple lines. Here's your 4-8 we look at for directional changes. You see the breakdown here with the crossover short term. 4 crossing the 8, failure to get back above. You started some here, and then another failure. Cross back over. Anybody that looks at a 4-8 EMA should have been out of it here. And now we're just kind of starting to flatten and roll here. So, got to get back above there and get that cross. It's depending on the time frame how it's going to look, but you can see we still got some separation there. Let's look at an SMA. Here's your 20 simple moving average. I think a 19 is a little cleaner, at least with this Bitcoin ETF. So we do the 19, you can see held the bottom candle here, part of the candle here, buyers came in before it, and then you can see the breakdown here right at that number. Then we've hit it a few times and failed, got quite a bit of ways from there. So you could also draw a trend line if you're looking to kind of clean that line up and get an idea of where you'd be a seller at if you're an aggressive buyer, and it would probably be somewhere along this descending line. Depending on the time frame, once again, it could be in the 12s or high 11s. And then a little tighter view, here's your daily on your 19 SMA, which looks pretty accurate too. It catches the opening candle of the pivot here, not the top of it, but the opening number. It catches this bottom area right in here. You got some buyers just ahead of it, and then it kind of catches your failure in here. If you held this number where it crosses over, that also is the high of these two candles pretty much. And then you can see the failure here. So once again, shorter term, if you wanted to clean that line up, That's another tight line that we're looking at for a crossover to the bullish side, but that's a lower number, somewhere in the 1040, 1050 area like we talked about before. So definitely interesting spots here on Bitcoin. To come back to this big drop here and retrace all the way back to the ascending trend line is interesting. If we were going to look at a continuation downward move with the trajectory we've seen, we probably would have failed somewhere along this line here instead, in my opinion. You would not have crossed back over, because if you look at the bottom candle here and the bottom candle here, it also catches the top of this pivot. It would have failed right in here. Instead, it blew right through. Not only did it blow through, but it blew through on some decent volume. You can see the candle right there. Big buy volume candle, not as big as the sell one that got it there, but significant nonetheless. And then the selling pullback candle obviously had a shortened trading day, quite a bit less. Even if you doubled that, you're still less than that buy candle. So really interesting here. Here's your triangle. Your support on Thursday would be around 940, 945. Not sure that happens. That's going to be a volatile move to get there, but that's just your support. And then your resistance is around the 1040 area. Now you can see how this is starting to tighten here. Really interesting move in Bitcoin ETF. And then just to finish up traditional technical analysis, you're still below the mid Bollinger. Same thing applies. Same thing with our numbers pretty much. You can run that top one there and it goes pretty much through there. The angle of descent's a little bit different on the mid Bollinger. Actually, I didn't catch that top one, but you get the idea. We're getting into a crucial area here. A couple ways you could play it. You could buy half a position here and then look to add maybe in the 940s and then set a stop at this low number here in case we break through here. But things are really interesting for Bitcoin here. Hopefully that helped you guys out a little bit.